Earlier this year we set out to plant a tropical garden on the north side of our barn here, and when we showed it to you it really hadn't taken shape yet, so we wanted to have a return visit and show you how well things had done, especially going with our new color scheme of tan and burgundy on the barn. Right here is our banana tree that we keep over every winter in the greenhouse. It's done extremely well, and then following on down here we have lantana and Mexican heather that are just covered in little beneficial insects, butterflies. They're making a wonderful habitat here in the garden. Right here is a sun-loving coleus called Alabama. Take a look at that beautiful frosted foliage. It's a mixture of lime green and burgundy. Looks very nice among all these other foliage plants. And then right back here we have elephant ear. These were planted on a segment of Oklahoma Gardening earlier this season. They've done extremely well. Look huge, but they really fill in this expanse of empty wall space along the barn, and that's exactly what we had in mind when we planted them. In fact, we planted caladiums down below them and you really can't see them very well. So when you're planning next year to use elephant ears, you might consider moving the caladiums further out in front of them so they will not be hidden throughout the year. On over here we have purple false eranthemum, and that's kind of a mouthful, but I don't have a good common name to give you. But take a look at that glossy foliage. It is slightly marbled with dark green and white and then overlaid with a burgundy wash. Very beautiful tropical foliage plant that you could put in your garden next year. It is not hardy, so this is one that if you have it in your garden you need to start taking cuttings or plan to cut it back in a couple of weeks before we have a frost and take it up and bring it in as a house plant. Right here is another coleus that is a sport of green dragon variety, and as with most coleus, we're growing it for the foliage, and as this has bloomed we've kept the flowers pinched back so that we get that beautiful foliage appearance, and it has really done well to bring light into this shady area with the eranthemum back there sort of imposing some darkness on it. So it's a nice contrast. We have a lime tree kind of stuck in here that you really can't see very well. Then down in front is a narrow-leafed form of copperleaf plant that we've decided we're probably not going to use next year. So many people have visited this and said, well, what bug chewed that up? Or they've wondered what kind of weed killer caused this weird growth. And this is the natural growth habit of this plant, and we're not too crazy about it. It might have its place as a specimen plant in a very sparse landscape, but it doesn't really fit in here. That's what gardening's all about, is to kind of experiment with things. Right back here we have another large form, and that's Monstera philodendron, another house plant that we've moved out here just for the summer. We'll be bringing it in a couple weeks as it gets cooler. And then on down here is Joseph's coat. And if you ever visit the OSU campus on the west side of the Student Union, a lot of times they'll do patterned plantings of both green Joseph's coat and the multicolor pattern, and you could do that also in your garden next year. Then right here is one that's done very well. This is a celosia, and this is flamingo feather purple variety, and although it was planted here predominantly for the purple foliage, these flowers are very attractive as well. Now if you're going to dry these, this is really over mature. You might want to find them at this stage, or maybe a little bit larger, about that stage. Cut them further down on the stem and hang them upside down to dry. But mostly that's grown for its foliage. Let's look on around the corner here. Take a look at a couple others. Oh, right here is another nice foliage plant. It gives a very tropical feel, and that's Cassia grandiflora. It's a large candlestick plant that usually you'll have to get started from small plants. If you start it from seed, it may not flower by the end of the season. If you live down on the Oklahoma border along the Red River, these have a little better time because it is a very long season plant. And if you've ever visited botanical gardens in Dallas or Fort Worth, in mid-October you'll see these in full bloom, and they are just gorgeous. On around here we have a regular copperleaf plant, and that gives a nice tropical feel, especially in the fall. It's a nice accent plant because of those fall color tones, although it has that appearance all summer long, so keep that in mind as you're planning your color schemes for next year. Now for one final look at our foliage plantings around the barn, we have a blend of two different species here. This is Burgundy Sun Coleus, and again this is the new line of Coleus. They're very heat and sun tolerant. It has held that beautiful burgundy color all summer long. We have occasionally had to pinch it. If you take a look back here, we have a flower coming on, and in order to stop the growth and make sure that we get all foliage, we've been pinching those out. Right here we have scented geraniums, and it's been very interesting that there are some scented geranium varieties that have done better than others here. And I just want to show you our stars here in the garden. They all seem to be the ones that have larger foliage. This one is chocolate variety, and I wish we had smell-o-vision because this has wonderful fragrance. Then on down here, this scented geranium is a rose scented, and it has more of a cut leaf pattern. It really is a nice contrast with the burgundy sun coleus. Then down here we have nutmeg geranium, and it has not done quite as well. This is one that we might suggest that you put around daintier plants in the garden because the coleus just pretty well dominates it. Last of all, we have peppermint geranium, and I think this is among my favorite in contrast with the burgundy sun coleus. So as you look around your garden this fall and kind of reflect on how well things have done, you might think about making plans for next year. Make notes of some of the plants we've gone over and think about a color scheme next year where you'll have a low maintenance garden that's all foliage.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.